Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and salutations to the Akim who are tuning into these videos. This video is going to be yet another MOTB update, because you can see that this devil, Esau Edom, is trying to fulfill this agenda. And he's putting all of his efforts, his time and energy onto this thing that he's going to eventually implement so that everybody has to take it. And we, as the watchmen for Yahweh Shai, are seeing these things and sounding the alarm, blowing the trumpet in Zion, whereas other people amongst the Israelite groups, amongst the circumcision, they're not looking on their watch. They're basically trying to scatter the flock for whatever reason they have an ulterior motive, a different agenda that is different than Yahweh Shai's agenda, which is to prophesy these things as a watchman. You're supposed to be doing your job to speak out these things and watch the news, ultimately measuring the times diligently in itself so that we know what we're dealing with, and what we're about to be going through during these trials and tribulations. So in this article from the CNBC, title reads, Neuralink competitor Paradromics completes first human implant. And so you got all these other different companies even that are trying to achieve the same goal, to implement an MOTB in your forehead. And with all of these trials and advances that they're doing, they're basically just trying to perfect this technology so that when they advertise it to the population, it's going to be a very seamless, safe, efficient application that people can just accept. The devil is basically trying to make it look like this is a very insignificant thing, that if you do take it, you're going to benefit so much more in society. And so I'm just going to read real quickly from the article just to see how efficient they're getting with this technology and being able to implant it seamlessly. So the key points is Paradromics has implanted its brain-computer interface in a human for the first time. And so Esau, with all these other companies, this isn't the first time that they've done that, but you got all these other companies that are doing different techniques and ways to do the actual implementation of this device in your forehead. And this company is starting to get there too. And so the next bullet point says that the procedure took place at the University of Michigan with a patient who was already undergoing neurosurgery to treat epilepsy. And part of what he's going to advertise this is that it's going to cure you of certain ailments. And a lot of these people are going to be blindsided and deceived by the devil. But the elect are not deceived because the elect are on their watch. We're seeing this before anyone else is, basically. Even though people hear us, they're basically just disregarding the message. Because one of the videos that the camp in Dallas did recently in one of their live streams is they were actually speaking to an Edomite, just a regular Joe six-pack Edomite, who was speaking about political issues and the money that the government is spending for Ukraine and stuff. And the elders at that camp were hitting them with specific questions, inquiring about these things. Main thing that the elder brothers were saying was, when are we as the American people going to benefit from all these things? And the Edomite pretty much was saying, soon, hopefully. So their expectation is that they're going to continue forever. But ultimately, the fact that Esau Edom is putting all of his eggs in this basket and expediting this MOTB just lets us know that his time is almost at an end. There isn't going to be no revitalized American empire. This place is destroyed, just like it says in Jeremiah 51. Babylon is fallen, and all these people are trying to mitigate that, but ultimately they're going to be caught in that chaos, in that poison that this place has been hit with. And continuing on from this article, it says the company said the procedure demonstrated that its system can be safely implanted and record neural activities. And so they're able to probe a person's brain and fix little things here and there where a person, something was wrong with them, or if they have epilepsy issues or whatever the situation is. Esau Edom is trying to cure those ailments through the left hand, but the elect are not going to be deceived. We're not going to take this, no matter how pretty or shiny it is, and it has all these bells and whistles. We are already on our watch. We know the aftermath of what's to happen if you receive these things, as is spoken about in Revelation 14. Which the Lord's will, we'll get to that, but I'll read a little bit of this article. So it says, Neuralink startup Paradromics on Monday announced it has implanted its brain-computer interface in a human for the first time. The procedure took place May 14th at the University of Michigan with the patient who was already undergoing neurosurgery to treat epilepsy. The company's technology was implanted and removed from the patient's brain in about 20 minutes during that surgery. Paradromics said the procedures demonstrate that its system can be safely implanted and record neural activities. It's a major milestone for the nearly 10-year-old startup as it marks the beginning of its next chapter as a clinical stage company. And so you see, Esau Edom has been on this for 10 years plus. And just imagine what they're not telling you, what's happening behind the scenes. With Elon Musk, he had a whole bunch of pigs hooked up with that Neuralink, where he was advertising, and he's got monkeys playing ping pong on the video game, but they're not telling you how many monkeys had to die for them to get that efficiency in probing a person's neurons and their brains. So as pretty as Esau Edom is going to advertise it, the men of the Lord, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, that the ones that he have risen up in these last times to be his elect, to be watchmen over Israel, we're seeing these things plain as day, because wisdom is making our faces shine, and now we're shining the light on all these things. All we have to do is read the scriptures, and we apply what's happening in today's times. This MOTB is part of the prophecies that's spoken about in the book of Revelation, and that's why we are sounding the alarm, to let you know that that is the MOTB, and do not be deceived by it. And when I wanted to read this precept in Titus 1:11, just to speak on these other Israelite groups who are in the circumcision, they're not speaking about these things. They're actually saying a bunch of damnable heresies, and they're not 100% on what we here at Great Millstone are speaking about. You got a few talking points here and there. Some of them are trying to catch up to what the apostles of Great Millstone, the elders on down, have been speaking about for 30 plus years about this MOTB. But ultimately, it's pretty much too late, and you're being shown as a false prophet. So I'm going to read this in Titus 1, and I'll start at verse 10. It says, "For there are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers, especially they of the circumcision, whose mouths must be stopped, who subvert whole houses, teaching things which they ought not, for filthy lucre's sake." And every week, like for the past years, there's always been some sort of controversy or some sort of thing that these other Israelite groups like to bring up. Like right now, it's the hell doctrine again. And before that, it was that Paul wasn't a member of the elect, or that John the Baptist fell out of the truth. These are damnable heresies. When ultimately, if you were to stick to prophesying, that's the main spiritual blessing, the spiritual power that we're able to speak about, they're not doing those things. They're just wasting their time on little intricacies and things here and there that they could try to bring up, really for fanfare, so they can try to pull in as much people as they can for money, for filthy lucre's sake. And let me see. I'll read verse 12. It says, "One of themselves, even a prophet of their own, said, the Cretans are always liars, evil bastards, slow bellies. This witness is true, wherefore rebuke them sharply, that they may be sound in the faith, not giving heed to Jewish fables and commandments of men that turn from the truth." And so all these people are trying to turn people from the truth. But like, as I said, the elect are not going to be deceived. We're still out there on the highways and hedges because you still see brothers waking up, being baptized by this word. And so we're going to continue to speak these things because you can see that we actually are bearing fruit with the doctrine and the ministry that we're a part of. And this is gospel. This is good news because now the fact that we know that Esau Edom is implementing his MOTB in our lifetimes, it only makes us rejoice in the spirit because we know that our salvation is nearer than we believe. This is something that should technically draw in the crowd. You know, we rely on the words and prophecy of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai and his testimony. We don't do gimmicks here at Great Millstone. We speak the scriptures and prophesy. All right, so I'm going to read here in 1 Corinthians 14 and 1. Let me see if I can get to the point. Mainly, it's just these few precepts. So in second Sock, it says 1 Corinthians 14 and 1, it says, follow after charity and desire spiritual gifts, but rather that ye may prophesy. For he that speaketh in an unknown tongue speaketh not unto men, but unto the Most High, for no man understandeth him, howbeit in the Spirit he speaketh mysteries. But he that prophesieth speaketh unto men to edification and exhortation and comfort. So the main thing that we should be focused on is prophesying. And part of the prophecy is that MOTB. And so that with that prophecy, we are exhorted and we're built up in the spirit and we're edified and we're comforted with those words. In verse 4, it says, he that speaketh in an unknown tongue edifieth himself, but he that prophesieth edifieth the church. And we come week in and week out prophesying and making these visions plain upon tables. And what we do basically is the main thing that we were commanded to do down here. None of these other gimmicks and tacky things that these other various fringe Israelite groups are up to, speaking damnable heresies pretty much for filthy lucre's sake, and also and just filled with a whole bunch of scandals. Just lets you know that the Spirit is not dealing with them, because if the Spirit was dealing with them, they'd be speaking about prophecy. And so a quick precept is in Isaiah 8 and 20, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. And so that's what's being made evident nowadays with all these fringe groups speaking these damnable heresies, scandals, and just a whole bunch of things to sidetrack and distract people, basically spreading the flock and scattering them, when we should all be feeding the sheep of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. But ultimately, we're not deceived, because those people, the deceivers and the deceived, are also, part of this story. We, part of the elect, of the hopeful elect, are going to continue in our ways and speaking these things, because light is now in the world, and men love darkness rather than light. When we speak these things, it shines a light on these people. You can see that happen every time at camp. A person gets cut because these words are quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword. And so the last precepts I wanted to read, going into that light, that when we're speaking, there's no light in these people, because if they did have the light in them, they would be a part of what we're doing the same thing, walking two and two together, because we're agreeing with each other. But ultimately, they got a little leaven in their doctrines, and ultimately in their ministries. So in Ephesians 5, and let me see, where am I going to start? I'll start at verse 8. Well, I'll start at verse 6. It says, let no man deceive you with vain words, for because of these things cometh the wrath of the Most High upon the children of disobedience. Be not ye therefore partakers with them. Like I just quoted, roughly, can two walk together except they be agreed? That's why one of the things, if you were watching our videos, part of Great Millstone, GMS, we advise you not to listen to these other groups. You kind of have to be built up in the spirit if you actually do that, so that you can catch the differences in the leaven that these other groups are speaking about. You'd rather want to be built up at our videos, at our camps, as opposed to these other groups. If you want to listen to these other groups, go ahead, but we advise not to mix and match the different groups and doctrines, because they're pretty much speaking damnable heresies. So in verse 7 again, it says, Be not ye therefore partakers with them, for ye were sometimes darkness, but now are ye light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is acceptable unto the Lord. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. And so that's why when we're speaking these things, we're reproving them. We're shining the light on any and every type of schism that happens amongst these fringe Israelite groups, and whatever doctrine they're trying to bring up for the next week and the week after that. We're going to reprove those things and shine the light on it. Basically, finding them out to see that they're just devils, deceivers, and ultimately spreading the flock. So I'm going to read from verse 10 again. It says, Proving what is acceptable unto the Lord, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. I'm going to read this part in the NLT. It says, Take no part in the worthless deeds of evil and darkness, instead expose them. And so that's part of this ministry. When we're prophesying, we're also showcasing the differences of what these other people believe in, and exposing them through the spirit and power and the light of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And so with that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rachak Wadash, Shalom Akim.